You are listening to the Vivian Bale Ensemble, and I am about to introduce your mistress of ceremonies for this evening, Gay Vernon of Magic 106.7. Give it up.
Good evening, Boston, and welcome to Whittier Street Health Center's annual roast. This is my very first roast. I don't know about you, but the rain is over, and I'm in good spirits, and you are too, and I know we're going to have a wonderful evening together tonight, because tonight we are privileged to be roasting Cleve Killingsworth, who has dedicated his professional career to improving the delivery of health care. So, let's get this party started by introducing the participants of this evening's program. Please help me welcome Don Berwick, the President and CEO of Institute for Healthcare Improvement.
How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Next up this evening, help me welcome Frederica Williams, the President and CEO of Whittier Street Health Center.
She's once, twice, 3 times a lady, and we love you. Yes, you once, twice, 3 times a lady. We love you. We love you.
And now, help me welcome Hubie Jones, Dean Emeritus of the Boston University School of Social Work. Next up, Mark DiNapoli, the President and General Manager, Northeast Region, Suffolk Construction Company. Mr. Ron Wacker, Healthcare Consultant and longtime friend of Cleve's. Next up, Gary Gottlieb, the President and CEO of Partners Healthcare and the 2010 Roast Co-Chair.
How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you.
And now please welcome Clayton Turnbull, the CEO of the Waldwin Group.
It is to be loved by you. Yes, it is, girl. But how sweet it is to be loved by you.
And help me welcome Deborah Miller, Chair of Whittier Street Health Center's Board of Directors.
Sweet it is to be loved by you. It's like sugar sometimes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Like honey to the
And finally, joining me here on stage tonight, the Reverend Ray Hammond, Bethel AME Church.
How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Now, if I could ask you all to please stand up, rise to your feet, because I'm about to introduce to you the man who you all came here for, the man we are rallying around, we are honoring, and ultimately we are going to roast this evening. Please welcome Cleve Killingsworth.
Like a fool, I went and stayed too long. Now I'm wondering if your love's still strong. Ooh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. And that time I went and said goodbye, and now I'm back and not ashamed to cry. Ooh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Here I am, baby, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Here I am, baby, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. I done a lot of good things that I really didn't mean. And the time I went and said goodbye, and now I'm back and not ashamed to cry. Oh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Here I am, baby, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Signed, sealed, delivered, here I am, baby, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Signed, sealed, delivered, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Signed, sealed, delivered, here I am, baby. I'm signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Signed, sealed, delivered, I am, baby.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome, welcoming Cleve to this evening's event. It's fun already and the roasting hasn't even started. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Whittier Street Health Center's President and CEO, Frederica Williams.
Thank you. Thank you.
Three
Thank you,
times a
Gail. Good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome to Whittier Street Health Center's 2010 roast for Cleve Killingsworth, who is truly a healthcare hero. We are honored to throw this celebration for Cleve and to give him a send-off as he continues forging ahead with his impressive career as a visionary leader in healthcare. Before we begin the night's festivities and mayhem, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. The communities we serve face numerous barriers that limit their ability to maintain a long-term relationship with a healthcare provider. These barriers lead to prolonged disparities in health outcomes that make communities like ours more prone to chronic illnesses. Whittier Street Health Center stands as a community partner in health to ensure increased access to high-quality health care for our most vulnerable populations. The care we provide is predicated on breaking down barriers to care and building lifelong partnerships with our patients around healthy living. As you will see in the upcoming video about Whittier, once we get our patients through the door, the care we provide is comprehensive and compassionate, and we work hard to track and ensure improved health outcomes for our community. Your support tonight is critical in allowing us to provide free services and community resources that help members of our community overcome obstacles to good health. By being here tonight, each one of you has helped to bring someone new through our doors, someone who otherwise would have gone without care. On behalf of our patients, board, and staff at Whittier, I extend thanks to all of you. Tonight, we are here to honor the 30-plus years that Cleve Killingsworth has dedicated to improving the delivery of health care. We are also here to wish him luck as he looks forward to his future endeavors as a healthcare hero. About 5 years ago, when Cleve started working at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, I was one of the first people he met with. I was extremely impressed with Cleve and could see right away that professionally and personally, he had a true dedication to the populations we serve. I am always on the lookout for good roast candidates, and I knew from my first encounter that he deserved to be honored as a champion for his continued commitment to providing quality health care for all. At Whittier, achieving health care means a dedication to efficiency, effectiveness, safety, timeliness, and equity. Integral to all of these elements is patient-centered care, where there's a continuous focus on the needs of the patient. Providing patient-centered care inherently improves the quality of health care. Through my work with Cleve, I have seen his dedication to high-quality care and to Whittier's mission and model of care, to always put the patients first. Let me give you one example from Cleve's career. While working for the Detroit-based Health Alliance Plan, Cleve instituted an initiative to reduce the use of emergency room visits for non-emergent care. In many communities that have historically lacked access to health care, it is common for patients to use emergency rooms unnecessarily. This is often due to limited knowledge about the healthcare system and lack of access to primary care. By focusing on reducing emergency room visits, Cleve worked to build the patient from accessing care episodically as symptoms arose to building a primary care relationship focused on wellness and prevention. Furthermore, by taking these steps, Cleve saved almost $8.5 million in healthcare spending in his first year. Putting the needs of the patient first has been a continued commitment for Cleve, and I am sure that as he moves on to the next phase of his career, we can all be assured that his dedication to high-quality healthcare for all will continue. As I mentioned earlier, when Cleve first moved to Boston in 2005, Whittier was one of the first community-based organizations he visited. I am pleased that tonight, Whittier is also one of the first to host a celebration to thank him and wish him good luck as he continues his impressive career as a healthcare hero. Thanks, Cleve, for all you have done for the patients we serve at Whittier. As we wish Cleve farewell, this evening could not have happened without the hard work and dedication of some very committed people. Thanks to our roast committee, especially our roast co-chairs, John Fish and Dr. Gary Gottlieb. They have been the driving force behind the success of our fundraising efforts, and the entire committee needs to be congratulated for a successful event. I would also like to thank our toast mistress, Gay Vernon, Reverend Hammond, for tonight's invocation. We have a great lineup of roasters who I am sure will provide us with some great material as we see Cleve off. Don Berwick, President of the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, Hubie Jones, Dean Emeritus of the Boston University School of Social Work, Clayton Turnbull, President and CEO of the Walden Group, and Ron Walker, a healthcare consultant and longtime friend of Cleve's. We greatly appreciate the support of our sponsors who have shown their commitment to Whittier and Cleve Killingsworth. Our presenting sponsor, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts. Our lead donors, Brigham and Women's Hospital, Partners Healthcare, Suffolk Construction Company's Red and Blue Foundation. Our benefactors, Citizens Bank Foundation, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Our patrons, the Abbey Group, the Bill Companies LLP, Boston University, Caritas Christi, Granite Telecommunications, John Hancock Financial Services, Liberty Mutual Group, New England Development, NSTAR, and the Yockey Foundation. Our contributors, Boston Medical Center, Celtic Care, the Connors Family, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation, National Grid, Neighborhood Health Plan, Northeastern University, Partners and Simons, P.S. Lynch Charitable Lead Annuity Trust, Roxbury Technology Corporation, Savings Bank Life Insurance, Sovereign Bank, and the TJX Foundation. Thanks to all of our other sponsors for your continued support. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Gary Gottlieb, President and CEO of Partners Healthcare. Gary is also a Whittier Street Health Center friend, advocate, and supporter. Gary is a 2010 Roast Committee co-chair and last year's Roast honoree. Thank you, and have a great evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Frederica, and welcome. Welcome to the Whittier Street Health Center's 2010 Roast for Cleve Killingsworth. As Roast Committee co-chair and past honoree, I'll say first that it took me a year to get over this, Cleve. You better be ready and ready for a great time here. I would take notes as much as you possibly can because you get the final dessert. So all of you be careful and beware. Last year's roasties, those who roasted me last year weren't able to return this year. I know that a lot of time and devotion came from lots of people. I want to thank my roast co-chair, John Suffolk, his staff at Suffolk Construction, and the staffs at Partners in the Brigham and Women's Hospital for working so hard to be able to make this evening a success. Thanks to the work of the Roast Committee, to all of you who committed yourselves, by the end of this evening, we will have raised more than $500,000 to support the work of Whittier Street Health Center. Thank you. Just remember that $500,000 goes to focus on healthcare disparities. In a city with so much greatness in healthcare, it is the work of an anchor in our community like Whittier Street that allows us to reach out and understand the healthcare needs of those who need it the most. And has the ability to provide patient-centered care, care that relates to families, and that understands each of the ways in which barriers to access to care create disparities that are unnecessary, immoral, and unacceptable in our society. Through Frederica's leadership and the extraordinary people of Whittier Street, there's outreach that focuses on childhood obesity, on trying to reduce asthma deficits, on looking at healthcare disparities and infant mortality. These are building blocks for our ability to have healthcare equity and the true justice that's necessary, and Whittier Street is a leader in our ability to serve. Think about that as you eat tonight. Think about that as you relish the roasting of Cleve, but also think about the return on investment each of you has made, because the real outcomes relate to the great work of this organization. It was a medical home before we started talking about medical homes, bringing interdisciplinary people who focus on the needs of those who need us the most. And much of what we need to do in healthcare is our ability to coordinate and provide excellent care to those who are at greatest need and at greatest risk. Frederica is a visionary in that regard, and this organization is an extraordinary anchor in our ability to try to cure the problems that exist in healthcare in this country and be able to invest in our community in a truly meaningful way. So just remember, Cleve, take each and every note, look at these people, remember what you did to them, because the opportunity for you to get back is important. It is the last word, and they are forewarned. Now let me introduce our video so that you get an appreciation of the extraordinary work of Whittier Street Health Center. I just want to welcome Mark DiNapoli, the President and General Manager for the Northeast Region of Suffolk Construction, and my fellow Roast Committee member. Mark did an extraordinary job of bringing together the people of Suffolk and all of our friends to be able to bring their great generosity to this evening. Mark.
The best things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees. I need money. That's what I want. That's what I want.
what I want. What I want.
I think you get the theme that was just played and what my job is tonight at this fabulous event. I'm really very pleased to be here tonight to pay tribute to nothing other than a giant in the healthcare space, and that's Cleve Killingsworth. It's just tremendous. And as well, with all of us, to help support a truly inspiring healthcare institution, the Whittier Street Healthcare Center, led by a person with incredible vision, a person with incredible energy, and really nothing short of remarkable. And it's a person I got to know very much in the last 6 months, and I want to thank her for her support and her vision and her focus, and that's Frederica Williams. Please join me in congratulating her. I'd also like to acknowledge our committee members who worked tirelessly and really helped this get this over the edge and make it a tremendous success. Our co-chairs, Gary Gottlieb, who just spoke, and John Fish did an incredible job, and the many other members here and guests here in this room tonight that are true friends of Whittier Street Health. So we thank you for all of your effort. Many of you are familiar with the incredible impact that Whittier Street Healthcare has on the lives of men and women in the community in the city of Boston. When people describe Whittier, they consistently use words like compassionate, supportive, and committed. These words are entirely accurate, and I think you'll see that this evening, but they can't quite describe the positive impact that this institution has on literally thousands of Boston residents who otherwise would not have a place to go, would not have a place to turn for decent, responsible health care. So how do I describe this to you all tonight? You've heard the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Maybe that's the direction we should go. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce you to a video that really captures the spirit and it captures the effort and the commitment of the people to this wonderful organization. You'll hear from people that have been served by this organization as their Center for Healthcare. You'll see the incredible staff members and how they think about their job every single day and how they're committed to what they're doing. It's really overwhelming, and I hope you enjoy it. Just a few minutes.
Whittier is to provide high-quality, reliable, and accessible primary health care and support services for diverse populations to promote wellness and eliminate health and social disparities. Significant numbers of our patients present with psychosocial issues, and it is critical for us to address those issues as we focus on behavior modification and wellness. By being patient-centered, we're ensuring that we're there when the patients need us and that we have accessible services, we meet the needs of the community, that our services are culturally appropriate and provide a full continuum of wellness and preventative services that are tailored to meet the individual needs of the populations we serve.
I think that I have a different connection. I grew up across the street, actually, from here, so I really do know about their environments and the history of this community. It's patient-centered because I really focus on the big picture and how I can best serve Deborah.
I can be who I am. I can share and tell my story and feel safe, and that's the most important thing. Is Whittier Street makes me feel safe to share. The group medical visits was very important because I'm able to ask different ones with different expertise, different questions, and also just to have that group of support. There are other people within my group that hear my story and know what I feel.
You know, people get amazing care here and they feel like they're part of something. You know, we want to support and empower people.
The diabetes clinic is patient-centered in a few different ways. We do assessments of patients, written assessments about what they know about diabetes and what their beliefs about diabetes are, and then we try to tailor an education program to that.
I had all these things going on, you know, the diabetes, hypertension, and I talked about it with Dr. Drews, and he would call and, ask me how I was.
We, for the last 7 years, have been tracking all of our diabetic patients, and we know who's due for, a list of probably 20 different exams, whether it's an eye exam or a blood glucose test.
They really made me comfortable and helped me get through it, because it was really, really scary for me at first.
As we see someone year by year continuing to do well, that to a primary care provider is really rewarding.
The Healthy Weight Clinic is efficient because we use 3 different providers in one clinic visit. And the great thing about the clinic is that a family can come in and see all those people in one clinic visit, so they don't need to make 2 or 3 visits to treat the same problem.
I remember me shopping for 2X, 3X shirts, and now I can look in like mediums, and now me and my friends, we be sharing jeans because I could fit his size, he could fit mine. It just feels good.
So Taven's a busy kid. He's involved with a lot of different activities. And I think the fact that we can provide all of those 3 visits, the nutritionist, the case manager, and myself, and do them all after school, have been incredibly helpful for Taven.
I think Whittier Street has been supporting his exercise by letting him know how much exercise he needs, and then giving him a free pass to come here to exercise. I think that was a very good help.
When I get on the treadmill and I go slow at first and I see someone next to me running and someone else next to me running, I'm like, I want to be running that fast. And then I learned I can go faster and faster as time goes by. So I'm outrunning them now, so it feels good. So I just want to keep doing it and doing it.
And I think we really have an administrative commitment, we have a clinical commitment to serving our patients in the way that's best for them, even if it's not necessarily the way that's best for us, and that's really important about where we work.
We tend to receive and are called on to work with the children that are hard to reach. The arts are just marvelous tools that go way beyond the cognitive and the language abilities, but embraces the whole child.
Whittier hasn't only helped Mason, but it taught me to learn what autism was all about, because I had no clue.
We're catching what the needs are as early as possible. Then it's more timely, it's more cost effective. And Mason Services are moving along just wonderfully at this point.
Prior to going to Whittier Street Health Center, he never drew, he showed no interest in on everything. Now, I don't have enough paper and crayons in the house.
The arts bring out our passions for life, and that leads to success. That is effective.
I would call Whittier Street one of our fabrics of our communities.
Mason wouldn't be the kid he is today if it wasn't for Whittier Street Health Center.
I couldn't have done this by myself without Whittier.
I just enjoy coming. My mother comes, my sister, my uncle, my daughter, and I've been here since I was in my 20s.
I think that one of the greatest contributions we can make to patients who use Whittier is to make sure that it continues to be there, it continues to thrive, and it continues to add the scope of services that are needed to really provide the comprehensive health care that's going to be needed for the future.
Pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? People staring straight into the camera and describing everything that Whittier Street Health Center has done to improve their lives. There's one quote in the video, I don't know if you caught it, it really stood out for me when I was previewing it over the last few days. It was one of the physicians from Whittier Street Health that's very, very committed, and she said, "We serve patients in the ways that are helpful to them, not necessarily helpful to us." And that's the commitment that you get at Whittier Street Healthcare. It, quote, tells us a whole story of the center. It demonstrates the staff's selfless approach to caring for others. It's time that we all demonstrate that same level of unselfish dedication by supporting the fundraising efforts tonight. Now, I know many of you have contributed and done tremendous things for this evening for Whittier Street Health, and we really appreciate everything that you've given so far. We thank you for that. Coming here tonight, just coming here tonight, shows that you care about community, and for that, we thank you, and we're very appreciative. But for those of you that haven't had a chance yet, It's not too late. The time right now is to step up and make a difference if you're able to do so, to help transform the lives of so many through quality, cost-effective, and efficient healthcare services. Help Whittier continue caring for the people that deserve this support so much. Kids like Mason, that we saw a few minutes ago, who have developmental disabilities, or diabetic patients like Nettie, or even breast cancer survivors like Deborah, that we just saw in that video. So if you're able, we've been supporting Whittier for many, many, many years tonight. And if you're able to do that, we'd like you to do the same. So in front of you at the table, I have mine here, is an envelope. They're in the table. If you can, we'd really like you to consider a donation this evening. We'll make it easy for you as well. If you fill out the envelope, a Whittier volunteer will stop by sometime this evening and they'll collect this. Now, what impact is this going to have? It's going to have a lot. To give you an example, $1,000 alone will help screen 10 children for autism and for learning disabilities so that there can be early guidance for them and their families to help them live productive lives. $500 will bring essential home visits to at-risk mothers and their newborns to ensure healthy families. $100, just $100, will pay for 5 sessions for nutritional counseling, exercise education, and self-esteem support for kids through Whittier's Race Around Roxbury after-school program. So your investment, the investment you've already made and the investment we're asking you to make tonight, is clearly an investment in people. So I'm asking you to please invest in these people that we saw tonight and the many others that are helped by this organization, this important institution. And overall, thank you very much for everything that you've done, for your generous support, and please enjoy your evening.
I would like to welcome the senior pastor of Bethel AME Church, Reverend Dr. Ray Hammond, for the invocation.
Having had the opportunity to do this over the past 7 or 8 years, thank you. I often do take the opportunity to do a little roasting, but on this occasion I'm going to make an exception. First, I want to ask if you would do something, because I've discovered over the years that friendliness sometimes has to be facilitated in New England. And I'd like to ask you, I know you've met everybody around your table, but would you just turn to the person at the table closest to you and just introduce yourself to one person over there, preferably somebody you don't know. That is great. And that's practice for what I hope you'll do also during the dinner hour, as we keep on working on the task of building bonds of community. Now let me have your attention one more time. Rather than roasting Cleve, I want to take the opportunity to say thank you, Cleve, for being a man of vision. A vision of health that is comprehensive, holistic, and inclusive, not only of clients and customers, but whole communities, and especially the people, the youth, who are on the margins of those communities. On behalf of a number of organizations serving high-risk and proven-risk youth of all kinds, I want to say thank you for your support. I want to thank you not only for the programmatic support, but for the capacity-building support that you've given. And I want to take a moment to ask Cleve's wife, Darren, to stand. Because what almost no one in this room knows is that when Darren came here in 2004, she asked, what could I do that might make a real difference? And she did something that very few people do, and that is to reach out to some of Boston's toughest young people. Darren, you went to those kids in after-school programs and public schools and DYS lockups and reporting centers, not once, not twice, but week after week. You built relationships, you taught them life skills, you recruited other volunteers, and by your presence, you helped change their lives. Thank you. Now I think we're almost out of flu season, so could we join hands around our tables? If anybody's nervous, I'm sure somebody's got a Purell in their pocket or bag. I have a friend who says, I just have one thought with two words, and it's this: thank you. And would you be interactive with me? That's a tradition from which I've come. And when I say thank you, would you just say thank you? Thank you. Okay. With grateful hearts, we bow our heads, O Lord, and we say thank you. Thank you for your servant, Cleve, a man who's given his life to the work of blessing others, for his willingness to share his time, resources, ideas, for his determination to make a difference. For this, we ask that you would bless him in all of the many roles and capacities he occupies. We ask to say thank you for Darren, for her willingness to go beyond the usual, far beyond it, and make an impact on those who are counted among the least, lost, and left out in this city called Boston. And we say thank you 12 million times for Whittier Street Health Center, for its bright future, for the vote of confidence, not only from this community, but from our government, and for the possibility of seeing an even finer, more effective and powerful institution arise. Thank you for the leadership of Frederica and Deborah, who guide and support this extraordinary staff and board. And finally, we say thank you for this food, for this fellowship, for this night. As together we say, amen.
Hey. Let me invite you to help me welcome the Mayor of Boston to the podium. He is here. Here is the Honorable Thomas Menino, the Mayor of Boston. Mayor Menino.
I apologize for being late. Mayor's work. We have some events to do, but I just wanted to say I'm here because I guess Gary Gottlieb tried to be an auctioneer. And I think we're going to try to re-auction all those items off, because I know Frederica and the Health Center really needs the resources now, because we're very close to breaking ground. I'm so pleased that we're that close, and it's because of Frederica and a lot of folks who are on this head table and folks out there. And I just want to say to all you folks out there, Whittier Street is one of my favorite places in the city of Boston. They care about people who need health care the most. And you always go into that health center, and there are people there looking for the help they need, and that's what the Whittier Street Health Center, a lot of the health centers in our city do, but Frederica and her staff really have outreach to folks, make sure that they get the necessary health care. So I want to stop by and say to all you folks here, thank you. I apologize for not being the auctioneer. If I was the auctioneer, a lot of people would be much, much less endowed right now, because I have no qualms about embarrassing people to give money. And so I just say you're lucky. Bob Mahoney, you're very lucky to buy my breakfast so cheap. We'll have to put some kind of wager on that. But also I'm here because of Cleve Killingsworth. Let me just say that tonight's a night to give me a little jab here and there, to roast him. But all I could say about Cleve is thank you. Thank you for the job you did for the city of Boston and the children of Boston. Cleve was a chairperson of the search committee for Carol Johnson. He put a lot of effort into it. He spent a lot of time making sure that we picked the right person to head the Boston schools. And by what Carol's done over the last 2 years, Cleve was right. She was the best person out there to help us move public education in the city of Boston. It was because of this gentleman who spent so much of his time out there making sure that we did what we had to do to get Carol Johnson to come to Boston. And that's one thing I want to say to you folks. He was committed, he made it happen. But Cleve's been involved in a lot of other parts of our city. I just want to say thank you, Cleve. This is a chapter in your book of life that's closing. Another chapter will open very shortly, because I believe you have a lot of more chapters in your life to make a difference in the lives of so many people in our city, our state, and our country. Thank you, Cleve Killingsworth, for the work you've done for so many people for so long.
Thank you very much, Mayor Menino. Now, tonight we have our first roaster, who is a friend of Cleve's. We're going to start the roasting for the evening. He's going to kick things off for us, and he is Dr. Berwick.
Can't help myself, I want you and nobody else. In and out my life,
In and out my
you come
life.
and you go.
Come and you go.
Leaving just a picture behind, and I've kissed it 1,000 times.
Dr. Berwick assures me he was not a member of the Four Tops. He is currently president and CEO of the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, and in 2005 he was appointed honorary Knight Commander of the British Empire by the Queen of England in honor of his work with the British National Health Service. And I am quite sure this is an honor that not too many people have ever received. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together right now for our first roaster of the evening, Dr. Donald M. Berwick.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure, a great honor to spend this time with you. Cleve Killingsworth is a hero of mine. He's a man who's changed every community that he's had a chance to come into and affect, and that is true absolutely to the enormous benefit of this Commonwealth and this community. I'm deeply in his debt for what he's done for my community, our colleagues, and for me personally. Roasting Cleve is not just a great honor. It's not just a chance to reflect on his gifts with the gratitude that I feel, which is immense. It's not just a chance to celebrate him and have some fun. It's much more than that. It's terrifying. So what's there to be scared about? Well, you would ask that question if you don't know the real Cleve Killingsworth. You think that Cleve is what he seems to be, quiet, meek, uncertain, hesitant, short, a milquetoast. But I believe that too, I know, but I was fooled. I did some research, and so I'm going to tell you that you have Cleve wrong. Underneath that meek sheep's clothing is a wolf. It's not exactly a wolf, it's another sheep that's dressed up like a wolf. Cleve is a sheep in wolf's clothing dressed up like a sheep. And I need to explain this. I'm going to start with Lucy. I have it on very good authority that Lucy is the most important person in Cleve's life. Well, not really a person. Lucy is a dog. Not really necessarily the most important. There's Darren. Darren thinks she's tied with Lucy, maybe slightly ahead. Lucy is Cleve's Chihuahua. Now, when I found this out, I was reflecting on the choice. Cleve Killingsworth loves a Chihuahua. This is disproportionate. Cleve should love a Saint Bernard, I think, or a buffalo, or a yak. But it's Lucy. Lucy looks up to Cleve. Darren says that every morning Cleve gives instructions to Lucy, which are, go to the safe room if mommy is mean. He's trained Lucy, I understand, in how to dial 911. Lucy is 7 years old, but Cleve says she's 4 years old because, as Darren puts it, he can't deal with it. Cleve has another dog. It's a 60-pound boxer named Betty. Cleve doesn't pay any attention to Betty. He doesn't, in fact, know Betty's name. He has occasionally fed Betty, though, and Darren asked him once, you hate Betty, why are you feeding Betty? He said, well, Betty needs to be healthy, because how else would she be an organ donor if Lucy needs something. Darren said to me, she goes, Lucy, wife. Lucy, wife. I'm not asking. So you can tell a lot about a person from the pet he chooses. Chihuahua, courage of a lion, strength of a Chihuahua, fearless, loyal, short. So let me tell you about Cleve. He goes to college at Loyola on a full scholarship, math major. It's a time of strife, and he helps occupy the Black Student Union in some protest, and Loyola yanks his scholarship. So he can't afford to stay. He finds himself out on the street. A friend is heading for MIT, and he asks Cleve if he wants to drive with him to Boston from Chicago. Cleve says, sure. So Cleve's hanging out in the dean's office at MIT, waiting for his friend to get registered, and Cleve sidles up to some assistant dean or somebody, and he says, hey, you got any scholarships available? I'd like one. The assistant dean, according to Darren, looks confused and says something like, scholarship? You just can't walk here at MIT and ask for a scholarship. You're not even admitted. You haven't even applied to MIT. So a more senior dean is apparently listening to this, and he approaches Cleve and he says to this young person, what's your story? What's your GPA? And so on. So Cleve tells him his GPA, and the dean says to Cleve, it would behoove you to send me your transcript. It comes from Cleve himself via Darren to me that at that instant, Cleve had no idea what the word behoove meant. It sounded negative, but he took a shot anyway. He sent the transcript, and poof, Cleve's at MIT with a full scholarship as a math major. The rest is history. MIT, math to management, Yale School of Public Health, and steadily upwards to national prominence. What a chihuahua. It wasn't easy. Cleve, as is evident, has one significant obstacle. It's an obstacle of birth. It's something he has no control over. It's his last name. Killingsworth. You have to think about it. A guy goes into a recruiter and says, I want to work in healthcare. And he says, what's your name, son? He says, Killingsworth. Now, if I'm that recruiter, I say, next. If you want to lead healthcare, you need a different name. You need like Love Heart or Cuddle Me, or maybe the German for God Love, which is Gottlieb. Killingsworth is an obstacle. Then a year ago, as a, so I looked up where the name Gottlieb comes from. It gets worse. It comes from the border between England and Scotland, which is famous for cattle thieves. Cleve is Scottish. Who knew? It means, the derivation is, it means the word of Scylla's people. So who is this Scylla? It's bad news, Cleve. It's the Scylla of Scylla and Charybdis, two monsters. Scylla is six-headed, flesh-eating, the first insurance company executive. Big obstacle, the name. But despite the obstacle, Cleve has succeeded, obviously, magnificently. And I need to tell you two stories before I sit down. 4 years ago, the organization that I lead, the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, wanted to launch a massive campaign in 4,000 hospitals in the United States to reduce injuries to patients by 5 million injuries in 2 years. We called it the 5 Million Lives Campaign. Cleve heard about it, and he called me, and he said, what's this going to take? And I told him, I said, to make it all free to all the hospitals in America, 4,000 hospitals, is going to take the following quantity, about $5 million over 2 years. He said, that's a bargain. A half hour later, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts had given an anchor grant, and 30 days later, thanks to Cleve's energy and support, without really my asking, he had gotten support of the total amount of money we needed to run that campaign. I don't think people realize that. We soared ahead. We enrolled 4,000 hospitals. I'm absolutely confident that hundreds of thousands of lives were made better. It was Cleve. It was Cleve. It was Cleve. Cleve will say it was Lucy, but it was Cleve. A year ago, I'm a board member of Physicians for Human Rights, and I got briefed about a year and a half ago, maybe, on the tragic deterioration of the medical school and teaching hospital in Harare, Zimbabwe, a victim of the heinous regime of Robert Mugabe, who just wreaks havoc in that country. Physicians for Human Rights was ready, was poised, and able to send a team of very courageous doctors and investigators into Harare at their risk to document the torture, the destruction, the intimidation that was underway in Zimbabwe around that medical school. and to mobilize the international community, it required about $40,000. I called Cleve for his help and suggestion. It took 30 minutes. Cleve saw to it that PHR had every nickel it needed by the end of that day. The team was en route to Harare 2 days later, and the landmark report that was written by that team has made history in an ongoing battle for justice in a very, very troubled country. And you know what? I don't think anybody but a handful of people, maybe nobody but me in this room knows that Cleve did that. That when it comes to self-aggrandizement, he is a quiet chihuahua. Cleve and Darren have a vacation house near Rochester, New York. When I told my wife that I was scared, I didn't know how to roast Cleve. She said, it can't be that hard to roast a guy who chooses to have a vacation house in Rochester, New York. Actually, it's in a quite lovely spot. It overlooks the Finger Lakes. They call this house Bear Run, I'm told, because Cleve says that if they ever see a bear, they will run. There will be no need to run. Heart of a lion, strength of steel, latency time of 0 between smart thought and able action, generosity without any bells and whistles, your best friend if you're on the right path, and don't mess with him if you're on the wrong one. I think Cleve can stand up to any bear ever made. Thank you, Cleve. You're my kind of chihuahua.
Thank you, Dr. Berwick. Next up, we have Hubie Jones, who is currently the Dean Emeritus of Boston University's School of Social Work. Hubie has played a key role in the formation of at least 30 community organizations here in Boston. He has served as a trustee at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute for 10 years and a trustee of the Foley Hoag Foundation for 25 years. And tonight, he's going to practice his stand-up routine as he joins us now to roast our dear friend Cleve. Hubie?
I'll be there
with the love that will see you through, and I'll be there to love and cherish you.
Good evening. There's a lot to thank Cleve for. I first of all would like to thank Cleve for creating the Gathering of Brothers. Many of you don't know that since Cleve got here, at least once during the Red Sox season, he invited about 20 brothers, black brothers, to join him in the Blue Cross suite. This is how it worked. If you were lucky to get an invitation, as I was, you got a note from his administrative assistant that said, before you get your ticket, please send me a photo ID of your health insurance card. But he's a generous guy, so he gave you 2 years grace. And if within 2 years you didn't switch to Blue Cross Blue Shield, you got off the list. The first time I went to the Gathering of the Brothers, I met Cleve at the door, and I said, Cleve, you know, I'm a little suspicious guy about you corporate types. What's the deal here? What's this about? He said, relax, have some drinks, get a hot dog, go out and watch the game, but just be here in the 7th inning. I said, okay. And so while the Fenway faithful in the 7th inning were stretching, having the 7th inning stretch, the brothers gathered in the suite and led by Cleve, we took care of business. At that time, we set economic policy for the state. We decided where all the federal stimulus money would go. And if Don Shafaro had gotten his complexion a little darker and joined the brothers, he probably would have his damn 60-story building over the Greenway now. But really, it was a hilarious affair on one level. Here you had about 20 black brothers, half of them with a connection to New York, and some of them, like me, born and raised in New York. And here we were munching on hot dogs and watching the Yankees and the Red Sox play and pretending we were rooting for the Red Sox. It was really hilarious. Of course, we all thought we were heavy hitters, and that's why we thought we could set state policy and all of the rest, when actually our combined batting average was somewhere about 110 at best. Some people do it on the golf course in terms of making the deals. Cleve did it at Fenway Park, pretending to watch a baseball game. It was Racial Integration Day at Fenway Park, and I think that was a good thing. I think that was a good thing, but what was more important is that you reached out to us, you brought us in, and it was a wonderful thing. When I learned that Cleve was building a a home, out of state, I said, this brother just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. He's a member of the black elite, now in Boston. He doesn't understand that his playpen should be on the vineyard, namely Martha's Vineyard, because it's there in the social hours and the cocktail parties that you can do your business even better than at Fenway Park. So Cleve, you are now liberated. You can be your true self. You can go where your heart is. You can now join the SPC, the Single Payers Club. Forget about all this employer-based health care. It's not going to do it. Become a member of the SPC. That's where you belong. I want to thank you for coming our way. I want to thank you for enriching the civic life of the Boston community. I want to thank you for continuing Blue Cross's amazing support of nonprofit service work. And as the founder of the Boston Children's Chorus, I want to thank you and your colleagues for having played a major role in starting the chorus and for continuing to provide the support that has made it an amazing development in this city. But I want to be clear about one thing. Don't think you're leaving here without my ticket to the Red Sox game with the Yankees this year. Okay, you just don't leave here, because if you were going, we're going to find you. We're going to find you. Thanks for being you. Thanks for all you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Hubie Jones. Ron Wacker is an independent consultant in healthcare and finance and a longtime friend of Cleve. Ron has held various executive roles at Kaiser Permanente, where he and Cleve were co-workers. Still serving in the healthcare field, Ron is here tonight, and he's going to help us roast his familiar friend. Ron?
Very superstitious.
I really want to thank all of you for me being here tonight. Darren, thank you. Cleve, I'm not going to thank you because you're going to regret this. Hubie, if you've ever seen him play golf, there's no way he cut a deal on the golf course. It would never happen. It'd be like a chihuahua swinging a golf club. I have some real personal reasons for this opportunity. Some years ago in Cleveland, Cleve and I went to a Cavaliers game, and we got seats right on the floor, you know, where they're throwing the ball in right in front of you. And I got home that night, and I said to my two sons, who Cleve knows, "Did you see us? Did you see us?" And the older one, Willie, says, "Well, yeah, we saw Cleve. He looked really good, but then as soon as the camera came on you, the whole picture went white because of your bald head." And so I've never forgotten how they look up to Cleve and mock my baldness. So this is special. Now, often at roasts, people exaggerate. They tell a story and then they tell it again, and it gets bigger and bigger like a fish story. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to exaggerate because in Cleve's case, there's no reason to exaggerate. I'm going to take the same approach that Cleve does to quality improvement, an evidence-based approach, or as I call it, history as I choose to recall it. I first met Cleve in about 1980, so this may well be our 30th year of knowing each other. We were at the American Hospital Association together. And Darren, I apologize if you have to listen to this story again, but I don't think anyone else here, except Cleve, of course, has heard this. And I'm going to tell it to him as many times as I can. Cleve was running the Division of Hospital Administrative Services, which, for those of you that know Cleve, you'll be surprised to learn it was where all the data about hospitals came in and had to be published in some organized fashion. It's amazing that those reports ever got out while he was there. I was running the Division of Hospital Planning. And I want to describe our very first business interchange. And this is no exaggeration. I received a letter from the Veterans Administration asking for data on the use of toilets in patients' rooms. Don, this is one of the earliest examples of evidence-based quality, I guess, flushing quality in hospitals. But the VA seriously asked for data on the use of toilets in patients' rooms. So, since Cleve was in charge of data, I sent him the letter and requested any data he might have. And I thought he'd ignore the letter. A few days later, I got a memo back from Cleve, and he asked me how I wanted the data disaggregated. Use of toilets by patients, or by visitors, or by doctors, or by nurses, and then there was another category, or by doctors and nurses together. Now, the only thing I'm going to add to this story, because it's been a mystery to me for these 30 years, is, knowing Cleve now, not then, who wrote that memo for him? There was a guy named Peter working for him, and I bet you Peter wrote that memo. Our paths separated for several years, and we rejoined at Kaiser Permanente in the early 1990s, and I won't go into our stories from that experience together. They were pretty special. Cleve then, he was beginning to really get on this issue of quality, largely around performance of the Permanente medical groups that he was dealing with. And he really was into that about as much as he was into getting lost whenever he tried to drive around Washington, D.C. Now, years later, when Cleve was at Health Alliance Plan in Detroit, he was really pursuing quality improvement and error reduction in hospitals and so on. And so we decided to go visit some colleagues and friends, Howard Berman and David Klein at Excellus in Rochester, and to discuss how insurers could really lead better in improving quality in the health system. Unfortunately, our breakfast meeting with Howard and David was cut prematurely short because we had chosen 9/11 to go visit them. And Cleve did not get the opportunity to tell Howard that unless he directly addressed quality issues, his tombstone someday would read, quote, "I reduced claims cost by a nickel," end of quote. That really was the issue in those days. It was an insurer trying to be more efficient about processing claims with not a lot of emphasis on what was happening in terms of quality in the health system. Now, instead of flying that day, Cleve and I needed to drive for almost 500 miles to get from Rochester back to Detroit. And I call this, and I will forever call this, the Twinkie-driven road trip. Darren knows exactly what I'm talking about. Starting with picking up the car at the Rochester airport, Cleve began eating Twinkies. I'm renting the car, he's buying Twinkies. I'm filling the car with gas, he's buying Twinkies the whole way back. Now, some of you know Cleve is a diabetic, and he is just munching down these Twinkies the whole way back for 500 miles. Now, as is usual in our relationship, we argued the whole time about how to improve quality. And somewhere east of Oakland, Cleve needed a bathroom stop, but since I was driving, I didn't stop. He said that I wasn't stopping because he wouldn't give in on the argument. Now, I don't know how much you folks know about Cleveland, but the east side and the west side have many different demographic differences. The most notable being black on one side of town, white on the other side of town. And so I waited till and the west side was the white side of town. So I waited till we got to the west side to stop to let him go to the bathroom. Now, I stopped for gas, so I had a reason to. He went running to a bar, as it turned out, which turned out to be a redneck bar. To this day, he thinks I was trying to get him killed in Cleveland. But in fact, he came out healthy and went and bought some more Twinkies. So the next day at his office, the first question I am asked by some of his senior staff, "You didn't let him drive, did you?" Well, it turned out, as we got toward Detroit, I did let him drive because I didn't know how to get to his home. And I just want to say, have you ever driven with someone when they're talking to you, they're driving, and you say something and they go, "What do you mean by that?" He would just turn the whole steering wheel, to say something to me. It was very scary. But at least the Twinkies were gone. And Darren will never forgive either one of us for the Twinkies. I just want to close by acknowledging Cleve's passion for improving quality. It has not waned in all the time I've known him. I just want to mention two premises, things I've learned from him in terms of a steadfast commitment to improving quality. And the first is something that he demonstrates personally, that the leadership of healthcare organizations, healthcare insurance organizations, have to personally make quality improvement part of their jobs. They have to lead on that point. And I think the second point is that when you attack the problem of quality in healthcare, you have to simultaneously attack the problem of cost in healthcare, because the two problems need to be addressed together in order for there to be accessibility to healthcare services that are affordable for everyone. And I really want to thank Cleve for that. And now that our first 30 are done, I'm looking forward to the next however long it takes. Thank you, Cleve.
Thank you, Ron. And lastly, we have a man who you may have seen around town as you stop by for your coffee. Clayton Turnbull, CEO of the Waldwin Group, is responsible for the many Dunkin' Donuts in Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, and the South End. Clayton has been here in Boston for 40 years, and he's joining us tonight to poke some fun at Cleve.
Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Ain't nothing like the real thing. Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Ain't nothing like the real thing.
Thank you, Viv. You all having fun yet? Having a lot of fun up here. Saw my partner Cleve coming in looking like a prize fighter coming up the middle of the ring. So I got this mindset. I said, oh, this is great. I can really rip him tonight. Then everybody started talking, good things about him and all the great things he accomplished. Wow. You're doing a great thing. Frederica at Whittier, awesome job here for the folks that come into your building every day having high expectation and you deliver. That's what many of us here care about. So congratulations to you, Deb, your board and staff for what you do. And Cleve Killingsworth, as you said, being a great partner and helping a lot of things happen. And the mayor was absolutely right about a lot of things that he does, and the pastor was absolutely right about a lot of things that his wife does. And we've got a lot of funny stories, but we won't tell those because we know what those stories were there. But, and let me tell you about this Red Sox thing. You didn't get into all the Red Sox stuff, but I'll tell you, Yankees, Boston has never won when Cleve invited us to the Red Sox. Never. The Yankees won every single time. And it wasn't necessarily warm either when we were there. But I'll tell you, when I was asked to roast Cleve, I got the call and I got the email and I scratched my head and I was like, oh man, I talked to my wife, Linda, who's sitting at our table tonight. And I said, he's such a nice guy. Not to mention, he's bigger than me. I can't. But I will try. I'll tell you one of the things that I had experience going to Cleve's office, and you can imagine when you are the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you've got X amount of physicians wanting your attentions and CEOs and whatever, he has, like a lot of us, an assistant. And the assistant's job is to run the man's schedule and tell him what to do and who's coming to see him. So I've always said, hey, Cleve, I got to come and catch you one morning for breakfast. He said, oh, yeah, man, call me. So I called his assistant. I said, hi, how are you? Good. Clayton Turnbull, trying to put an appointment together with Cleve Killingsworth. She goes, yes, Mr. Turnbull. And can I say what this is going to be about? I said, well, it's personal, She says, and who are you with? I said, I'm with Dunkin' Donuts. And I heard that long pause. She said, excuse me? I said, I'm the donut maker, and I want to talk to Cleve. And she was professional. She went right on. She says, well, we'll put a date together. So I said, yeah, I know she wasn't expecting that. But when I heard back in, 2002 that Blue Cross Blue Shield had a search committee going, and the search committee had chosen a new executive leader from Detroit. Now, you all who's been to Detroit? I said, Detroit? They didn't tell me no bio. They said, he's from Detroit. I said, okay. I paused to myself. And I said, no. I said, well, his name is Cleve, and it's Killingsworth, but my name is Turnbull, and so I can't talk about nobody's name, right? So my man, Cleve, showed up, took the reins, never looked back at leading a world-class medical city as Boston into a new age of quality and safety. Anybody flinch, and you, how long you been with him? Tom, you've been around him? Anybody flinch when Cleve descriptively made his point about the need for hospitals to increase the quality of their care as to not causing unnecessary deaths? And then he continued to make his point with that 747 crash thing, every month analogy. I ain't ridden a 747 since I heard that story. So I took that very seriously. I listened to it. But seriously, folks, who else could come to a city like Boston and change the minds of some of the oldest institutions? I didn't say oldest people. That's another story for another roast in this country. And the way they look at healthcare, make commercials about working together, which shocked me when I was laying there watching my wife would say on my way to bed, I'm in the couch. Then I see the face and I hear the voice. I was like, Cleve! Oh, he's on the TV. And he practices and he admits that they went to therapy. I said, Cleve, you said they went to therapy. And he was great. He's really humble. But ladies and gentlemen, he might come across as the next action figure, as you've researched, but he does have a weakness. He does have a weakness. There is a kryptonite that I'm going to reveal to you all tonight. And he knows, as Superman knew, kryptonite. I don't even think that his wife, Darren, knows about the kryptonite. Folks, our superhero drops to his knees has to stay protected, because you know what happens when the superhero gets to it. But he drops to his knees when butternut donuts come out of this closet. I'm telling you right now, nothing else, butternut donuts. He knows what I'm talking about. Darren, now you know. If you didn't know, there's nothing else that gets his attention when you pull out the butternut donuts. I know you can't believe this, but Cleve, on a serious note, on behalf of many of your followers and admirers, thank you for being a true leader. You've been a friend to me, a brother to me, and I'm sure to many others. And I'll always be proud to call you a very good friend. God bless you and Darren in your journeys, in your thoughts, and your visions. And I know you've been put here for a reason and a purpose, and you've helped so many people. Some of them are just not here to tell you how much they love you. But I'm here to tell you, a lot of people love you. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Clayton. As we end this evening, please welcome our honoree to the podium, because he's about to receive the honor he so greatly deserves, and that award will be presented tonight by Frederica Williams and Debbie Miller.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all of our roasters for their wonderful presentation. I'm sure we all learned something about Cleve tonight. And I also want to thank all of you for your compassionate generosity to our patients. Tonight, we were able to raise close to $500,000, as Dr. Gottlieb said, and it is a worthwhile investment. Thank you. After hearing the inside scoop from all of our roasters, it is now Cleve's turn to say a few remarks, but before we allow him time to pay back, I would like to present him with this award. The award we are presenting you tonight is for all you have accomplished as a true healthcare hero. Your commitment to the availability of quality healthcare for all has been a vital voice for the communities we serve, and we thank you for your work. On behalf of the staff at Whittier Street Health Center, the board of directors, and our 13,000 patients, like Taven, join me, who you saw in the video, who was kind enough to help us with the presentation. He made me promise that he wouldn't say anything. Thank you all. Thank you for all you have accomplished for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My goodness. Thank you all so much for this evening. Frederica, thank you so much, and Deborah, and Gay, and especially the board for this wonderful, wonderful award. I'd also like to thank the co-chairs for the event, John Fish and Gary Gottlieb. You should know about Gary that when we negotiate the contract with partners, he behaves the same way he does during the auction that he did earlier. Just to give you a feel on the inside about how that works. And thank you, of course, to my friend Tom Menino for stopping by. You know, it's the nature of this award that you know about it well ahead of time. And so you have a lot of time to worry about what your so-called friends are going to say about you. And I listened to the stories they told. You can tell that my wife, Darren, made a small fortune selling embarrassing facts about me to the roasters. And now that we've heard from them, I'd like to add a few comments in response. First of all, Don Berwick, the first roaster, my good friend, you know, according to the newspapers, Don will soon be nominated by the President of the United States to run Medicare and Medicaid, the nation's largest insurance company. And now, Don, you can enjoy that special place that insurance company executives have, you know, when you call home and your family members say, "Oh, you don't work for one of those terrible insurance companies the president's been talking about, do you?" You can enjoy that for a while. And when you're not enjoying that, I hope you enjoy the polite conversations you're going to have while testifying to various Senate and House investigating committees on payment practices of Medicare. And, you know, I have to tell you, I realized that early on we talked and I encouraged you to be open to the possibility of this position. But it was at the end of a long day. I was kidding. And regarding your comments about Lucy, you can say what you want to say about Cleve Killingsworth. I can take it, you know, when you're talking about me. But no matter what you say, there's no way that I'm giving up Lucy. And Hubie, thank you so much for those, well, you know, not really, but those wonderful words. You know, your kids, the Boston Children's Chorus, you know, they've done such a wonderful job all over the world. But I've noticed along the way, people are always giving you credit. And you haven't sang a note in the whole history of that organization. And what he didn't tell you about about the games over at Fenway, and this is the real significance of the seventh ending. Usually, you know, when I had the guys over for that, I usually had a flight the next morning someplace, so often I left early, and it was about the seventh ending. And what really happened at that point was I turned to the guys and pleaded and said, "Look, guys, please leave the furniture. You know, last time you were here, we had to replace dishes, furniture. I mean, come on, all right? Please." And then I had to start putting people in charge when I left. And the reason we built a house in Rochester, and I agree, it's kind of South Carolina, kind of counterintuitive since it gets colder there than it gets here in the wintertime, is because that's where Darren was born and raised, and that's where she loved it, so that's the home that I came to love. Now, Ron, I love Ron, my man Ron, and we've known each other, I think, longest, you know, of a variety of people that I've known over the years. And, but I gotta tell you, there's been one disappointing moment in my relationship with Ron, and that was that I would think that after all the years of kind of being with me, being around me, being with my friends, you know, kind of, he would have had the opportunity to become comfortable with diversity. So, you know, I thought he was moving ahead here until I left Detroit to come to Boston. Because Ron, because he loves me, thought he should give me a gift.
And usually when people give me a gift, they give me kind of Stuban or, some kind of glass and thing, and beautiful things. Ron, his gift to me was a knife. A knife. And I'm thinking, Ron, just because a brother's leaving don't mean you have to give him a knife as a gift. There's books, there's so many other things, but Ron gave me a knife. So we got more years together, my brother. What a wonderful community, and what great progress we've made together, working together in healthcare. I'm particularly proud of what Blue Cross Blue Shield and the Blue Cross Blue Shield team and the board have allowed us to accomplish and has accomplished in the time that I've been here in town. Healthcare quality and payment reform has moved to the top of the agenda in the healthcare conversation here in the Commonwealth, and that gives our community a reason to be hopeful about the future of healthcare. And much of it is thanks to the work that Andrew Dreyfus and his team has done in this community. Health reform was successful in part because the Blue Cross finance team was the source of truth for all stakeholders during the reform debate. So it didn't matter that we were the insurance company. What mattered was that those people were excellent and trusted by everybody who participated in the debate. And that made an extraordinary difference, I think, in being able to move that issue forward. And then, although we asked them to support great change and often take on significant risk, the board was there to support us at every step along the way, and I thank you for that. And I also hope that as a community, Blue Cross can continue to count on your support as they move forward in this very dicey, difficult environment to try to deliver value and care in a way that is morally just for our members and for all of those in this community. But while most of us were talking about health insurance for the uninsured, Whittier was providing the uninsured with the care that they needed. They did it with fewer resources than they needed to get the job done, and they continually met the high standards of quality that I talk about and we came to expect. While many write about how to deliver services to a diverse population, by having the ability, for example, to communicate in over 17 different languages, they've set the standard for dealing with diversity. When everybody has health insurance, what we will discover is that what we really need is to provide the right care at the right time and at the right place. And when we look for ways to get that done, Whittier will emerge as a shining example of how it should be done. Much of the honor of receiving this award is knowing that it generates support for Whittier. Your ongoing generosity will ensure that Whittier will continue to make a critical difference in the lives of those who have come to depend on it, and both now and then also in the future of those extraordinary people. And as for me, I'm going to Disneyland. Thank you very much. Thank you.
On the tables this evening are beautiful flowers that have been donated to us by Winston Flowers, and if you have a star on the back of your program, you're one of the lucky ones that gets to take some of these beautiful flowers home with you this evening. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you all for what you have done this evening to honor Cleve Killingsworth and to show your support for Whittier Street Health Center. We want you to have a safe trip home, and we want you to come back next year. Good night, everyone.